Hi everybody, welcome to episode 7 of Satellite 664. I'm Kaz Tagyan, one of you two co-hosts, and as always, I'm joined by Mr. Steve Loopy Newhouse from Romford, Essex, a lazy 6-hour Sunday afternoon bicycle ride to the Hammersmith Odeon. Am I right?
Yeah, very, very lazy.
Very
Good
lazy.
afternoon, everybody.
All right, so we on this episode we're staying in 1983, and this time we're focusing on the tour, the World Peace Tour in '83. So the last episode was about the album. We focused on the Peace of Mind album, and now we're going to talk about the tour and some of the more interesting things and salient points about the World Peace Tour. So. Uh, Again, just to give you a little bit of background, Peace of Mind released 16th of May 1983. It peaked on the UK charts at number 3, which was very impressive for a heavy metal band at that time. Don't forget, this was before metal became mainstream, and there was some stiff competition at that time on the UK charts. Just to give you an idea who Maiden were up against, you had, New Order, Cliff Richard, Elton John. So number 3 was actually quite an impressive achievement, really. And the tour kicked off 2 weeks before that at Hull City Hall on the 2nd of May '83. And as it was custom in those days, Maiden used to actually start the tours or weeks or a couple of weeks or a month before the actual album came out, and that's something they continued right up to and including the Somewhere in Time era, which I always sort of found interesting. And the tour started in the UK and went through the normal the standard venues that they used to play at that time. The most notable ones, obviously, Birmingham Odeon, Leicester de Montfort Hall, Gaumont Hall, Loopy, where you joined the tour, I believe, at that time.
I actually joined the tour going by notes in my Tandy 1983 diary.
Wow.
Yeah, you saw it here first.
Wow,
Uh,
that's a piece of history right there.
on Saturday, May the 7th, I went with Keith Wilford
Mm.
and a guy called John Doofus. We drove down to Southampton just to go and say hello to the guys, go and see the show. I mean, passes had been arranged, etc., etc. And that's pretty much where. After the show, we went back to the band's hotel for a couple of drinks and just sort of say hello. And I was approached by Warren Poppy, there's that name again, and he basically turned around and said, "Loopy, I need someone to help me out. Can you go home, pack a bag, and meet me in Ipswich?" So I did exactly that. I mean, the drive home was. So Keith was the driver and very, very tired. He'd finished work, he'd come and picked us all up, and he drove us down to Southampton. And he was basically falling asleep at the wheel. Now, imagine being on a motorway, 70 miles an hour. There's nobody else on the motorway, but Keith is crawling at about 15 miles an hour. It would have been quicker to get out and push the bloody thing. But eventually, we got home, and I phoned up a friend, Danny, and I said to him, "Look, do you want to go see Iron Maiden tonight?" And he said, "Yeah, okay, where are we going?" And I said, "Ipswich." "Oh, right." I said, "Well, look, I can cover your petrol money, but passes are all sorted out, but I will be staying with the band because I've been asked to join them." And that's how it came about. I ended up being driven up to Ipswich, and I stayed with the band overnight. Put up with it was a pub. It was actually a pub. The hotel was a pub. And it was like, which is like bad news. A band like that. But there was there were other things that sort of became involved, and I'm sort of thinking to myself, why am I here? What is my purpose? What am I meant to be doing? and there was a pub about 100 yards away from the Ipswich game on, and there was a couple of the band, like Steve and Adrian, were in there having a quick drink like before the show, which is what they used to do. They used to do that back in those days. And yes, they bump into sort of fans and whatever, but I realised that the fans were sort of beginning to crowd the band a bit. You know, they wanted autographs. And it was then that Steve turned around and said, "This is why you're here." And I instantly got it. It was okay, they need somebody to sort of calm things down a bit, you know, create a bit of space around the band. So, you know, you want autographs, form a queue sort of thing. And the band, you know, well, Steve and Dave, you know, quite happy to sign all these guys' autographs. And luckily, the pub was not that big, so you probably only had 50 fans in there from a venue that sort of held around about 2,500. And that was it. You know, I sort of felt a sort of kind of responsibility to look after them. You know, and that's basically why I've been brought in to sort of help with Warren, just sort of trying to get things organised.
Loopy, do you think what was the level of respect towards the band that you perceive the fans having at that time?
Well, back then, I mean, there was a lot of respect. It was a case of, okay, if I turned around and said to the guys, look, okay, the band have got to go now, so otherwise we're never going to get them on stage, they were quite happy to go, yeah, no problem. And they'd all sort of get out of the way and let the band leave the building. Whereas now, I can understand why certain members of the band don't go backstage. It's got to the point where they get mobbed. I mean, me and you, I mean, we saw this firsthand in Brooklyn when I made arrangements to meet up with Adrian, having not seen the guy since Manchester 2-3 years ago. And he wanted to come out and have a chat with me, and we were going to discuss his book and my book, and we were going to swap ideas and numbers and all the rest of it. And coming down the corridor, he was seen by everybody in the hospitality area, and they all made their way to him, and he didn't even make it into hospitality. You know, I mean, I managed to get out and sort of say to him, you know, I'm sorry about this, mate, out of my hands. You know, we'll have to try and do this another time. And he was quite good about it. But kudos to Steve. You know, if all right, he's got Peter with him. Like, he's a security guy, and Peter sort of follows him everywhere. Even on a British line, Peter is always there. But Steve won't go anywhere without Pete. And if Steve decides that he's going to hospitality to sign autographs, whatever, just even go and have his photo taken or have a chat with someone, Peter is always there. And the one thing I noticed about Pete, he is really, really good at his job. I know we haven't sort of discussed any of like the bigger shows yet, but I went to see the band in Donington, and that's where Peter impressed me most. Was there was a young lady that Steve was trying to talk to somebody. It was a young lady kept pulling Steve's hair just to get his attention, and in the end, all that Peter did was just moved in between her and Steve, and just backed away and backed away and backed away. So at the end, like she couldn't even reach his head. And that impressed me, and I thought, yeah, what a great guy for the job.
Which Donington tour was that, mate?
That was, hang on, I've got it here. It was downloaded in 2013.
2013. Yeah, look, I have noticed myself, really, since the last 15 years, since the band have really climbed to stratospheric heights of popularity globally, that there are a small but nonetheless sort of vocal minority of fans who do tend to get quite aggressive and quite stalkerish and mob them, at the hotel. And
it's very, very simple the way I see it. I mean, yes, okay, I used to work with the band. Yes, I'm still friendly with the band. Yes, I still chat with the band. But that's besides the point. These people are still human beings.
Correct.
They need to be respected and
Correct.
treated like human beings. Yeah, all this shit. You're not. It's not a given right to anybody to expect to meet any member of the band.
Yeah.
If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. 90% of the time, it's a sheer chance. You actually stand more chance of seeing one of the members of the band out in the street having a look around than you ever are in hospitality. And it's just the way it is. And that works with every other band I've ever worked with. As I said, it's just the way it is.
Yeah, that's right. And look, Maiden are very generous with their time. I mean, you compare them to other bands. I know. This is going to get some reactions, this one, but I know Kiss charge over in excess of $1,500 for a minute photo. You're shuffled in like sheep. You take your photo, you're gone. And I don't think they're even offering autographs. So I guess the fact that Maiden do on the street in their own personal time, on the odd occasion, pose for the odd photo and a greeting, speaks volumes in itself, and it reinforces the point that it's a privilege, not a right, to say to meet them, and especially one of the more cringeworthy things I've seen is when they're with their children or with their families, their wives, and they still get mobbed and they still get faced with this quite obtrusive, aggressive approach.
That was exactly it, especially with Adrian coming out. I mean, he had his missus with him.
Yeah, he had.
And she looks at Natalie. She looked at me and she went, "Can you do anything about this?" I went, "I didn't even expect Adrian to come out."
No.
I sent him a message asking the question, and he was coming out to see me. I couldn't be prepared for that.
Yeah, that was he had his daughter there as well. That was one of the more it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing to see, and again, I don't want to come across as one of these old guys that boo-hoo. The old days were much better, but
well, also you go back to the old days. I mean, when Maiden used to finish their set, while the band or while the crew were packing the equipment away, the band would come out and have a bunch of people sitting in the front row, and the band would sit on the edge of the stage and sign stuff for them. Yeah. The reason they don't do that now, quite simply, is because they're worried about getting mobbed.
Oh, but you couldn't do that at their stature now. I mean, when you're playing...
Well, no, the barriers are too far,
1983, they were playing, Hammersmith was sort of like the big prestigious venue. Yeah. In 2018, you're talking about, and obviously now they're talking about 2 nights at the O2. So it's just not possible. No. So let's go back to that. Let's go back to that time now. Let's go back to that wonderful year. So the set list was probably one of the more incredible set lists I think they've ever rolled out in their career. Let's just go through it. They started off with "Where Eagles Dare" as they as they did. That was like
that to me is still now my favourite Maiden set opener, because the way that Dave Lights had designed the lighting rig. Yeah, he had three triangles. There was one small triangle in the middle and 2 bigger triangles either side of that. Yes, and everything came down really, really low above the stage. And what he had was a bunch of it was like flashing LEDs, if you like, but all white. So you got these white LEDs going while that music was playing, and then all of a sudden the whole rig, all 3 sections, would start rising higher and higher and higher, and just as it sort of got probably about 6-7 feet above the band's head, the lights would come up, and the Where Eagles Dare would open, like the song itself, and by then you're still watching the lighting rig go up as the song started, and that to me is the best. Yeah. Having seen it enough times, though, yes. Yeah,
look, and we should also mention before the song actually started, the overture intro was from the Where Eagles Dare movie. And if you
It's the theme music
theme music,
from the film.
and if you watch, for all the people out there, if you watch the movie, so that's the 1968 film Where Eagles Dare, starring Clint Eastwood and Richard Burton, and those opening credits where the music's playing, it actually shows the scenery is of a bomber flying over snow-capped Bavarian Alps, which
Yeah,
now they've created on stage on the Legacy of the Beast tour,
yeah.
um, during the second song, Where Eagles Dare. So, going through the set list, so Where Eagles Dare, Rothschild, Trooper, Revelations, Flight of Icarus, Die With Your Boots On, my favourite Maiden song ever, 22 Acacia Avenue. If anybody from the band watches this show, please play that song. Just put it back in the set list, please. All right. Um,
I've got a video of you singing along to that in Brooklyn when
have
we were
you?
in the bar. Yeah, but I'm keeping that to myself until I can embarrass you with
Oh,
it.
what now? What do I have to do to incur
I
your
don't know.
wrath?
I'll think of something.
Come on, add it into the set list, guys. Please, just it's a
Yeah,
great song.
the
Um,
boys do it.
well, it's got two of the best guitar solos Dave and Adrian have respectively done. The storyline is quite gripping. That riff that chugs along is really cool. Just just
And I think it's the only time they've ever followed something along. When you
that's
go
right.
like from Charlotte the Harlot to 22 Arcadia, it's the only time they've actually followed something on.
Well, yes, and they actually followed Charlotte onto the Fear of the Dark album, because from here to eternity is actually the third installment of her story.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I know the
so
song.
yeah, so Charlotte the Harlot, 22 Acacia Avenue. She's obviously the working girl in the East End of London, and by 1992 she's jumping on a Harley Davidson on a country road somewhere, and that's how she met her end. But yeah, but just I would love to see that song again. The Number of the Beast, Still Life, To Tame a Land, and every single night on the UK tour, Bruce used to talk about the Frank Herbert incident. So, for those who don't know, go back and watch episode 6. We actually talk about that in detail. Phantom of the Opera, Hallowed Be Thy Name, Iron Maiden. Then they went into the encores, and these encores created a real jovial party atmosphere. So, Run to the Hills, Sanctuary, Drifter, Prowler. And Drifter was had that middle section where Bruce used to have that crowd interaction part where yo 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 yo.
Which was actually one of Diano's. Diano did that first.
Yes,
But you think about it, if you actually know anything about Sting and the Police, they used that on. I think it was the end of uh, Walking on the Moon,
yeah,
whatever that was.
yes, yes. It's
Yeah.
great. It's the serious part of the show's over now. It gives the fans a chance to really party, and I mean they've always done that with their encores, and even on this Legacy of the Beast tour, the encores are really strategically designed in a way to reach a real crescendo of joy,
Yeah.
and you see it in the crowd. So.
It's party time.
It is, yeah, that's right. Just one more thing on 22 Acacia Avenue in on the US leg of the tour, when Saxon were opening in Louisville, Kentucky. During that song, Saxon or Bill Biffett from Saxon, and as well as the rest of the members, they dressed up as women in dresses and lipstick, all as little Charlottes, and Bill Bifford jumped on Bruce's back, and Bruce, just because he was concentrating on singing, that was his reflex action, was to sort of elbow, put his elbow back, and Bill Bifford went flying and could have done himself some great harm there. So now, Loopy, tell me, did you feel at the, because you mentioned this in your book, that by that stage the band were becoming big very quickly, and there was, even though you're out drinking with them and partying with them, you noticed that there was a gap developing, which was perhaps a little bit more pronounced than it was in 80, 81. Can you speak to that at all?
Like a gap appearing as in
Oh well, a
who?
bit of a
Who?
distance between the band and everyone else.
Well, band and crew. That had been going on since about 1980, 81.
Mm.
I mean, I first noticed that on the Killers tour, where the crew were travelling separately to the band. Like the band were being driven, like chauffeur driven. Um, the crew were travelling on a tour bus, which wasn't easy. Because considering, I mean, the first sort of big European tour we did was on a Trathans tour bus that hadn't been designed properly. They put bunks in the bus to accommodate 18 people, but some of these bunks were so shallow that if you were laying down on the bottom bunk, you couldn't turn over because the roof was literally just above your head. So you try to turn, your shoulder would hit it, you'd end up laying on your back again. Um, um, in '83, things got slightly better because there was 2 buses. But at the same time, in the UK tour, I was actually travelling with the band. I was in a car with Adrian pretty much most of the time. Adrian and Bruce. And I think the other 3 were travelling with Warren, and I was being driven around by Tony Wiggins, who was the tour manager at the time. But yes, the sort of plus the fact that also, I mean, the crew was now twice the size that it was that like going back to 2 years before, because you've now got 4 people doing a PA, you've got 4 people doing lights, you've got your sound engineer, your lighting engineer, your catering staff. They'd all travel on the buses, and it just got to the point where one bus wasn't enough. They ended up using 2. You look at it now. I think the last British tour was something like 4 crew buses, and I think it was 12 trucks. But we're only talking sort of 40-foot semis.
Mm.
Back when I was doing it in 80, 81, we had 2 semis, 1 bus, and the band were travelling around in a van. Like a minibus. So things change, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
The band were getting bigger, so the equipment had to get bigger.
Yeah, merchandising.
And production, obviously, merchandise. In fact, on the European leg, we will come to that eventually. But one of the merchandise guys actually became a bus driver. So he drove us from Spain up to Germany.
That's right. Well, we've actually got a special guest coming up very shortly. After we're done talking about the tour, we've got a special guest on to actually talk about the tour shirts, and that's going to be incredible. You won't want to miss that. So stick around. Then, did you feel members of the band at any point wanted to sort of get away from the machinery, to have a bit of time to themselves at all at any point?
Yeah, well, Bruce comes to mind. I think I actually made a quote in the book about sort of the lines of like, you create a beast every now and again. You need to get away from it.
I love that quote.
And there was an occasion when we were in Stoke, and the tour manager came to me and said, "Right, Bruce wants to go to Bristol by train. Do you mind going with him?" I said, "Well, if the fares are paid, I don't care what I do." And sure enough, I ended up jumping on a train from Stoke to we got the train from Stoke to Birmingham, which I think took about an hour and a half, and then the train from Birmingham to Bristol, which is where we'd end up, took about another hour and 20 minutes. But it was nice to be able to sort of sit on the train and just have like a one-to-one with Bruce. I think that's when I actually got to know him better. You know, I didn't really know him up to that point. You know, he when I'd left, well, when I quit the crew, or got fired from the crew before, Paul was still there. And then I've come back, Clive's gone, been replaced by Nico. Paul's gone, now been replaced with Bruce. And up to that point, I didn't really know Bruce, but I did get to know him on that train.
Was he interested in flying and aviation back then as well?
Yeah, in fact, if I remember rightly, he actually had a book on him. He was actually reading at the time about flight.
Wow.
But I couldn't tell you what it was called. But Christ, it was 1983.
The ironic thing is though, of all the band, Nico actually was the first to get his pilot's license, wasn't he?
Yeah, he'd been
Before
learning to
Bruce.
fly in the States. He
Wow.
used to fly a couple of members of the band around way back when.
Way back when. Now, Loopy,
Yeah,
you and I are both football fans. Different codes, obviously. You're more into sort of the soccer, or we call it soccer.
it's not soccer, it's
It's
football.
football. Okay, well
Everybody else has got it wrong.
they do, and I'm into what? Yeah, so you're into the the round ball code, and I'm into Australian rules football. But those legendary football games which Maiden used to play on tour, and they still do to this day. Every sort of
Yeah, yeah.
city they're in, they play. Now you took part in one of those, one of the more famous ones in Dortmund,
Yeah, Dortmund, yeah.
and that was
Dortmund,
playing the one and only Def Leppard.
Aleps, yeah.
Now you guys won 4-2, I believe.
Yeah, yeah, I think Harris got a few. I think Adrian got a goal as well. Can't really remember, but um, we'd been put in touch with a company called Puma, sports equipment company called
Yes.
Puma, and we'd all been given trainers. We all had we'd all been sort of kitted out with like the Maiden shirts and shorts and socks and whatever. Um, but the problem with the trainers we were given, although free, and you can't complain, um, they weren't very good for running on very icy AstroTurf. I mean, if anybody was actually wearing boots, I wish I'd been warned because
Because
I would
this
have.
was in December. This was in December of '83.
Yeah, yeah,
Pretty
mid
much.
December.
This is in the winter.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, what happened was that we'd had, well, I say we, the Germans had had quite a downfall of snow, and the Astro pitch we were playing on, the AstroTurf pitch, was covered in this thin layer of ice, and I mean, Joe Elliott's coming running towards me, and I'm thinking, right, the only way I'm going to stop this is to do a slide tackle, which I did, and did actually stop him. But I ended up, because it's AstroTurf, I ended up taking all the skin off the side of my leg. Managed to see out the rest of the game, and it's history now. We won 4-2, but got back to the venue where the band was setting up to do the rock pop, and I ended up going to see some medics because the leg was hurting, and what happened was I'd got an infection in it, and it all got strapped up. So we ended up with we finished off doing rock pop, and I'm limping about all over the place, and we get back to the UK, and I went back to my mum and dad's in Leytonstone, and I said to my dad, and this is like Christmas Eve, I said to my dad, look, I'm not happy with the leg, like, we're going to have to go down to the hospital. And it turned out it was so badly infected, I've got pus and shit coming out of it. I was put on antibiotics. And the worst part about the whole thing was I was told, like, the nurse turned around and says to me, right, you do me a favour, just stop there. I need you to bend over, pull your trousers down and bend over that bed. I did exactly that, and she stood behind me about 3 feet away and threw a syringe into my backside, which is like penicillin. And she pumped the penicillin in. And she said, right, you'll be fine now. And as I stood up, my leg gave way. And my
Shit.
dad caught me and dragged me out to the car. But yeah, that was the first Christmas I had to go without beer because of the penicillin.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised. The game was in Germany, a football mad country, that you had to play on AstroTurf and not a proper football oval, or a proper
Oval.
football pitch rather. We don't. We
Thank you.
call it an oval. It's a football pitch. Sorry.
Yeah, couldn't ever understand that either because like you still got posts at either end. So why not just make it oblong, the same as ours?
Oh, well, we are down under. I suppose we do things.
Brilliant.
So the other way. I've got to take you to a Aussie Rules footy game if you ever come down here. So, well, I think the other notable game they played was against Rainbow in the US as well, where this time I think Nico was the goalkeeper. Dave and
Was that the
Adrian.
US or was that Sweden? Because I know that they played them in Sweden as well.
I think it was the US, and Dave and Adrian were the midfielders, and Bruce was the defender. Whereas when you played Def Leppard in Germany, you were the defender, and who was the goalkeeper at the time?
There's a guy called Jeff Daniels.
Jeff Daniels, yeah.
Yeah, I think he was a. I don't know if Def Leppard noticed, but he was actually a ringer. He used to play at the Queen's Park Rangers. But he was a
Really?
mate of Steve's. Yeah, he was a mate of Steve's, and Steve flew him over for the game. But now, Jeff is still around because he now looks after Steve's house when Steve's not there.
So you guys had an unfair advantage. You had a professional player there.
Uh, yes, I'm saying it through gritty teeth.
Great team. Who was? I don't think we got too many Def Leppard fans or Def Leppard themselves watching the show, which is all right. But who was best on ground for Leopard, based on what you remember?
By Joe by a mile.
That's interesting because Rick Savage was actually, I think did he not play for Sheffield Wednesday at one point?
I don't know. I think it was Joe that got both the goals. Now Rick might have been the supplier, but I think Joe was actually one that got both goals.
That's
I mean, every
great.
time he came towards me, I ended up flat on my arse.
Oh, that's brilliant. So let's talk about a couple of little tidbits from the North American leg of the World Peace Tour. Now, by the time they got to Canada in Toronto, they played a music festival there, and part of that music festival involved an Italian wine tasting festival. And it transpired that on radio, they declared that Iron Maiden fans were not permitted to enter the front door or front gate of the festival. Because the organisers didn't want trouble. They didn't want mayhem. Again, it goes back to heavy metal fans.
What did they expect?
Look, again,
I mean, let's face it. I mean, over the years, it's been proved that metal fans are probably the best behaved there is.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
what did they expect?
Again, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about in the last episode. And if you haven't seen that, please go and watch it, where metal fans are prejudged, underestimated, and
Devil worship.
yeah, that's right. And people have especially back then, not so much now, especially back then, people had really preconceived ideas about them. They thought the Maiden fans were going to go on this festival and destroy everything. And case in point, the day before, another band that was playing that festival was Culture Club with Boy George. And the Culture Club fans, no problem, they were allowed to go into the front door and participate in this festival. So Rod Smallwood got wind of this, and I don't know what threats he made to the promoter, but I think they were quite aggressive to the point where the promoter changed his tune very, very quickly, and the Maiden fans were allowed to come into this festival via the front gate.
If I know Rod, he's probably walked in with a tiny bit of string and said, right, I can make a noose out of this, but your one's going to be a bit bigger.
Well, you know what? Let me say something about poetic justice. The Maiden fans actually saved the festival because the turnout was so poor that the Maiden fans actually went and conducted themselves with great respect and really did well at the
And
festival.
was a wine. That was a wine tasting.
That was a wine tasting festival. That was a wine tasting.
Jesus.
Yeah, yeah.
Did they get cheese?
I'm not. Oh, I wasn't there. I wasn't there.
Neither was I. No, until you mentioned it, I had no idea.
We should get there. We
A
should.
cheese and wine festival.
Well, we should. We should. Well, yeah.
Eddie's brew.
Well, the two complement each other very well, don't they? And we should track down that promoter and get him on. But
Yeah.
look, it is an odd pairing because Maiden fans like their beer very much.
Mhm.
And yeah, to see a bunch of Maiden fans in World Peace Tour t-shirts, having Cab Sav or Pinot Noir was
Pinot Grigio.
Pinot Grigio, and
Chardonnay. I want a Chardonnay.
actually no. Well, this was in Canada, so we need to put on Canadian accents.
Oh,
Now,
Christ.
coming down,
No,
well, let's go. Hey,
forget it.
forget that.
I can't do
No,
Canadian.
we don't want to offend any Canadians. They're beautiful, beautiful
No.
people. We're beautiful people. Now, coming south of the border, there was another very famous incident that happened on the US leg of the tour, which we all found out a year later about it on the when we went and bought the 2 Minutes to Midnight 12-inch vinyl, and you had the Mission from Ari recording. So everybody knows the story. Basically, just to run through it very quickly, Steve's bass rigging broke down. He sent one of the crew guys, to get Nico's attention during the drum solo. Nico messed up his drum solo and bailed up this crew member. Steve Harris came in and sort of broke it up and said, no, well, don't blame him, it was me. And they had this argument, which Bruce ended up recording on his Walkman. And one very little known fact is when Harris and Nico realised that this was being recorded, Nico McBrain got so angry he went to smash Bruce's Walkman. And on the other side of the cassette that they were recording on, Bruce had his lyrics and song ideas for Power Slave. So the story has it, and if anybody knows, well, if anybody thinks this is not accurate and knows the real sort of details, let us know. But reports
Yeah.
are that Bruce tackled.
Leave a comment below.
Leave a comment. Bruce tackled Nico. Actually, tackled Nico to the ground because all his ideas and sort of lyrics for the next album were there, and we know what those are. It was the actual sort of lyrics to Power Slave, 2 Minutes to Midnight, Aces High. So
Yeah.
incredible. That's
class. Sheer class.
that's why I love this band because 36 years on, we tend to dig up all this stuff. It's great.
Yeah.
So that was the World Peace Tour, 150 shows, very hard-working band. In fact, to put that into perspective even now, so in 1983, as guys in their mid-20s did 150 shows, in 2016-17 on the Book of Souls tour, as guys in their 60s, they did 117 shows. So there's still... You put that into perspective. That's still a hell of a work ethic.
Yeah.
They were very
I
hard.
recall, and now we're recording this. They've just finished playing the last two shows in Santiago, Chile.
Yes.
Chile, say it properly. And again, I mean, that US, well, the whole American tour has been huge.
Mm. Yeah.
It's been a blast to be part of it as well. To go out and actually see the guys out in New York it's just a great time.
Yeah, and the third leg will be next year.
That's now coming towards you.
Apparently,
It's almost certain.
yeah, they're rumours, but yes, apparently they are doing some quite interesting quite interesting destinations. I mean, they're all rumors at the moment, and we'll find out, I think, in the next month or so. But yeah, there are some, shall we say, exotic destinations that are being rumored. Now, merchandising and tour shirts coming up. Our special guest. So hope you enjoy that one.
Yeah. And all I have to add is that at the moment my site is still down. So if anybody needs one of my books, you can get it via eBay.
eBay, get on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Get on it.